Hi, I'm Ryan Clark. I'm very interested in psychology. I started a psychology degree and totally dropped out. I'm also interested in genetics and evolution. I actually did finish a degree in microbiology. I just never used it for anything. I'm also a game designer. Crypt of the Necrodancer is my 4th IGF-nominated game. And for some reason, I think about game design, human evolution, and psychology a lot. So I thought I'd share some insights I've gained from this type of thinking. If you gave a dog a wish, it wouldn't wish for world peace or $1 billion as a human might. It would wish for a bigger bone or a bigger fire hydrant to pee on. We often think that we are special and that the things that we desire make more sense than the silly things that animals would want. But a dog would wish for bones and fire hydrants for the same reason that a person might wish for $1 billion. Evolution has given us these emotions and desires. Video games have only been around for a generation or two, so we haven't evolved much in their presence. As a result, the emotions and desires that cause us to wish for things in games must be based on our evolutionary past. They must be based on the emotions and desires that helped our ancestors survive. I started thinking about this a few years ago when I read a study that said Scandinavian children who take part in a thing called Buddhist Kola, which is essentially school outside, are happier than kids in other countries that do not. I wondered why this might be, and I figured that 40,000 years ago, children who enjoyed running around in a forest, finding berries, crafting small items, and gathering wood for fires would have been very useful to their tribe and more likely to pass on their genes. And then I realized that this describes quite a bit of what you do in Minecraft. Run around some wilderness, punch trees, craft things, and try to get a leg up on your dangerous environment. And you can even play Minecraft with friends, just as these children play with their friends outside. So I thought to myself, what if I designed a game that was about the evolutionary enjoyment of gathering, crafting, and surviving in a co-op tribal setting, and it would probably be successful. But I wasn't super excited about developing that type of game, so unfortunately I didn't follow through. But the success of the recent crop of survival games like Rust and Terraria would seem to indicate that this game design via human evolution stuff was a solid line of thinking. So that led me to wonder what other evolved emotions we could dissect for game design purposes. How about these unpleasant ones and these happier ones? Loss aversion is a well-known psychological phenomenon. It's a person's tendency to strongly prefer avoiding losses more so than acquiring equivalent gains. I personally hypothesize that we evolved this tendency because losses for a tribe or village would sometimes be catastrophic, such as the loss of food stores or a fire burning down the whole village, whereas gains would almost always have been incremental. Free-to-play games use our loss aversion as a method for compelling players to monetize, but what if you built a non-free-to-play game with defending against losses as the core mechanic? I believe that it would be very addictive. We evolved to be fearful and on our guard in the dark because one of our most vital senses, sight, is crippled. A tribe of humans has a much lower chance of surviving an attack by a saber-toothed tiger if that attack occurs in the dark. There are plenty of games that use darkness for great effect, but what about generalizing this? It's the fact that one of our abilities is gone that makes us feel weaker and more frightened. You could perhaps make an enemy encounter in your game more frightening by removing another sensor ability, such as a sense of hearing or the use of some piece of weaponry the player has come to rely on. Storytelling is universal among all human cultures. In games, we're often told a story, which can be enjoyable. But what about the pleasure of telling a story? Is it possible to create a game where the player telling stories is the core mechanic? Perhaps the player has to create a myth or parable whose core message can survive multiple retellings by other players. Music and dance are also found in all human cultures and are generally performed by groups of humans. But there are a few video games that make use of music and dance in groups. Rock Band is one, and it's been very successful. And I suppose two-player DDR is an example of group dance. But could music or dance games be adapted to larger tribe-sized groups in an online game perhaps, or a large physical gathering, or Twitch plays a symphony? Mimicry evolved as a method for helping us learn new skills by copying others. Could mimicry be fleshed out as a core game mechanic, or better yet, used as a method for making tutorials feel less tedious by having players mimic actions rather than follow written or verbal instructions? We're probably going to do exactly that in Crypt of the Necrodancer. These 5 minutes have only allowed me to scratch the surface of the behaviors humans have evolved. You can look at any ubiquitous human behavior and examine why we feel compelled to behave in that way, and perhaps the root of that behavior will be the root of the design of your next innovative game. Thanks.